addictions programs do you know of in the Rockford area?
I don't think I know of.
I know that Rockford has the Rockford Rescue Mission.
Let's see, like anger management.
Yeah, mostly I'm aware of phase, the various support groups like Al-Anon.
Rosecrans and Uptown.
And AA.
Anonymous, isn't it? Is it anonymous, I think?
Have you ever heard specifically of Reformers Unanimous?
No.
What? Reformers? I think I've heard about it. I don't know much about it though. No.
I'm not completely familiar with the program.
No.
Here at Reformers Unanimous, every Friday night, we like to do three things. What are those three things, class?
Andrea Eastup, 176 Days of Victory.
Tom Montina, 4 years and 10 months.
Larry Marks Miller, 5 months.
Jerry Jones, 5 months.
My name is Marla Lidke, and Victory from Painkillers.
Joe Hughes, 5.5 months.
Cole Livingston, I have 4 years, 10 months.
Jean Humphrey, 106 days.
Whitmer, I have 7.5 years of victory over heroin, 10 months victory over alcohol, and 7 months victory over
Jeff, 3 years. Ryan Braddock, 4 years, 11 months.
I have 6 years victory in Christ.
Jenny, 172 days.
Sidlecki, I have 7 months victory in Christ.
Jennifer Johnston, 1 year, 5 months, and 18 days.
Jane Richardson, 5.5
Jared
years.
Delaney, 3 years and 8
Tony
months.
Barbaroda, 22 months.
And Reformers Unanimous started out with a Friday night program, just like we're at tonight. You know what, there's some people that just coming on Friday nights, it's just not enough. They come here and they get victory, but there are some people on Saturday night, they'd be back out doing their worldly things, they'd be back into their addiction and things like that. And then they'd be in their addiction throughout the week and they'd come back on Friday, and then they'd be in addiction throughout the week and come back on Friday. And so Steve began to have a burden. He says, we need something to help people. You know, the people who do Friday nights just not cutting it for them. So him and Pastor Kingsbury started talking again, and they started a women's and men's discipleship program. And what that is, it's an in-house treatment center.
Nicole Bailey, I'm 30 years old.
Colby Capelli, and I'm from Dallas, Texas, 25 years of age.
I was born in Newark, New York, and I grew up in upstate New York, a little town called Williamson.
My family, they had me going through Christian schools just because they were too busy to take care of me. And it really didn't do anything for me. I had 2 older brothers that I looked up to more or less, and they I decided to follow them instead of follow what the school was teaching me.
I grew up with my mom and dad up until the age of 9, and that's when my mom asked my dad to leave because he had a very big drug addiction and alcohol and many other substances that were just really affecting our lives.
You know, my family, they got divorced when I was about 9 years old, so that tore my family apart. And you know, I had friends, but I wanted to be like my older brothers. You know, they were probably 16, 17, so they were smoking pot. You know, seeing a lot of money around. About 9 years old, I smoked pot for the first time, and then my dad was kind of going through a crisis. That's when my family, they split. And then by the time I was in middle school, junior school, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, I was smoking pot on a regular basis and constantly trying to get my hands on alcohol.
My dad actually had come to the house to pick us up for the weekend, and he was high. And he went down to light the water heater, and the gas had been leaking out for 3 days, and when he lit it, it blew up the house. So at that time, we moved to a different town, which was in Brockport, New York. I really got heavily into drugs and alcohol and, you know, just the partying teen life.
I stayed with my dad. He went out of town one weekend to Las Vegas, and that's when I started drinking. That's the first time I drank and smoked cigarettes. So that's where that kind of started. And then from there, the lifestyle kind of caught my attention.
I moved to Williamson. I did a little bit better. I did finish high school there, and that's where I met my husband.
My name's Matt Bailey. I'm 29 years old, and I'm from Rochester, New York. It was 7th grade when I met her the first time, and I was in my senior year and when our first son was born.
And after high school, we moved to North Carolina.
Throughout our marriage, the military moved me all over the place. And when I was traveling throughout the military, we ended up running into a bad crowd of friends.
We thought we were good parents, you know, having our kids and putting them to bed at 8 o'clock and then partying the whole night with our friends, you know, so we thought we were doing good, but we really didn't know any other way.
About 2 years after graduating high school, I found heroin, and I did heroin for the first time. And I snorted it, and then I seen people inject it, so that's where I did that. And I still thought I had a handle on it. My brother caught me one day. I had a needle in my neck, and I'm so caught up in drugs right at that point that, you know, he told me this isn't normal. I thought it was.
I found a friend that I had started using drugs with again, and I really thought it was only hurting me, so I didn't ever tell my husband. I was like, I'm just going to keep this from him, and you know, what he doesn't know won't hurt him. Thankfully, he got orders to Anchorage, Alaska. We got very, very active into the church very quickly, and everything there was to do, we did.
I spent a lot of my time at the church, and I realize it now that that was one of my downfalls, is I spent too much time there and I didn't focus enough on my family.
My brother came through this program in 2008. He was struggling with crack cocaine and alcohol. I knew I had to get rid of the drugs. I knew I wasn't going to be successful, and I wasn't going to be able to have a family or a wife or any children, anything like that in my life until I could take care of myself. At the time, I didn't want to change. I wanted to fake it till I make it, you know, get through the program, go back to what I was doing.
I don't really know where it came along, but I somehow started becoming dissatisfied.
I didn't know what was going on. So next thing I know is I get a phone call, and it's my wife, and she's crying, and she says, please don't hate me, please don't tell our kids. And I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what had happened. And she said, I'm so sorry, and she hung up. And now I have no idea where my wife is.
I was a very manipulative, very confused person.
I went and talked to the pastor, and he told me, he said, your wife has been struggling with some addictions. Your wife's been living a second life that you didn't know about.
I felt bad that I got caught, but I didn't really feel bad for what I was doing, you know. And the sad thing is that once you start lying, it's like you have to lie to cover up a lie, and eventually your whole life becomes a lie.
It was like a nightmare I was waiting to wake up from.
I didn't care about what anybody else thought. I didn't care what anybody else felt. I really didn't even care what my husband felt at that time, and it was hurting him so bad.
One of the hardest things I ever had to do was when I came back from teen camp that night, and I asked my wife to leave the home.
And of course, the first thing I think is, well, what is everybody gonna think? You know, what are you gonna tell the kids? And so that really turned me around. He dropped me off at a friend's house, and he said, you know, I hope you can come back one day, but you know, I don't know when that's gonna be, because I don't know. He's like, the Lord's gonna have to show me that you really want to come back, because I can't believe a thing you say.
The Lord laid upon my heart the ladies' home.
I had met with my RU director's wife, and she had noticed that along my addiction, I had become very suicidal.
I tried to trick God, and I said, you know, God, I said, I know that my wife has never heard about the ladies' program. I said, Lord, I said, if it's truly your will for her to go to the ladies' home, have her call me and bring it up to me.
And she gave me a little book on cutting. I started reading that book, and the first page was on the women's home. And I was reading that, and I was like, oh, Lord. I said I would do anything, but to leave my family, to leave the state and to go away from everything,
It was 2 hours later, my wife called me on the phone and said, what if I go to the ladies' home in Rockford?
And he said, I called Rockford, and he said they faxed an application for you.
When I first got here, I was still a rebel. I did not like authority. You couldn't tell me what to do. I thought it was a joke. I snuck dope on the airplane and needles with me all the way to Rockford, and was using all the way up to the gas station right outside of Rockford, and had to flush my stash and went straight into the home. And I came in with like 15 Suboxones. I ended up leaving the program after I got here to the men's home and using again, and ended up in Winnebago County Jail.
I wanted to change simply to get my family back. If I get through it, my husband said that he would take me back, so that's all that matters.
She wanted to quit the program. She wanted to walk out. She just wanted to come home. She felt that she didn't need to be there any longer. But what she didn't know is if she would have shown up at my door before the graduation date, I wouldn't have let her back in.
In the first month, I had been broken a lot.
I got it, that was my attitude. I got it, I don't need it. It was a pride thing, and it wasn't even drugs, it was just my pride that was causing all this.
I expected everybody to be very kind and very understanding and very, supportive of my needing to get help. And although they are, they sometimes use methods that they don't seem to be that way.
The authority, it's always tough to really have somebody tell you what to do, and they don't even really have a reason to tell you what, it's go sweep the floor, and obviously there's no dirt, it's like, what's the floor need to be swept for? You learn not to ask questions and just obey your authority.
I mean, I think it was like my first week here, and I was all excited and happy and chipper, and let's go to work and do a great job. And my boss, she yelled at me and said, you will not pull one over on me, and she just, let me have it. And I was like, I can't believe she spoke to me like that.
They're not doing it out of spite. They're not saying, hey, go sweep that floor just because they don't like me. They obviously see a need for it that I can't see, and so I just gotta have faith and do what they tell me, and that's pretty much the toughest part.
I realized that my manipulations weren't gonna work here.
No one, until you understand the obedience that you're supposed to have for somebody above you, no one likes authority.
Even because one of my concerns was even when my wife comes back, was it just all an act? Is it real?
I really felt like I had just blown it so much that I would just be this useless human being on earth for the rest of my life. I had really started to get into His Word and pray that He would show me what it was that I needed to do within myself to really change, and not just to say I was changed.
I just got to look back at where I came from, what I was doing, where my life was headed.
Because it's very hard to sometimes be shown what your flaws are and what you need to make different in your life.
My flesh wants to do things every day that I know I'm not supposed to, but I gotta just always remember that small compromises lead to great disasters.
Once I became so willing to want to do right, really truly want to do right, God had just opened up so many more things to me that made me no longer desire to do those wicked things.
And so I ended up coming down. It was on her birthday. It was February 27th. And when I saw her, I can't describe it, but the Lord had made it very evident that my wife had received victory. And I just saw how everything went from her, and selfishly speaking, to she was more concerned about the ladies in the home and more concerned about her children and more concerned about me, and just that's a side of her that I'd never really seen before. I told my wife, I said, "You'll never guess what I was doing yesterday." And she said, "What?" And I said, "I was packing the last of our belongings into a truck, and it's on its way here to Rockford right now." This is where we were meant to be.
My name is Colby Capelli, and I have 6 months victory in Christ over heroin.
I'm Nicole Bailey, and I am now an overcomer.